Hello everybody, James sent me this video and asked me to listen to it, and it's quite incredible really, because there's so much of me in this video. How many of you feel quite different, and then you've woken up and you've understood, maybe not everything, but you've understood a lot more information. And then there's other people who haven't looked at it, don't think about it, don't care, and yet you're driven by it. You're driven for the truth, even to explain the truth to people. And you know, I don't know about you, but I am quite a sensitive person. I just know when people are lying to me, and I read things. Sometimes it might take me a few minutes to digest it, or even a day, and I think, oh, that's what that was about. And I'm very sensitive to things. I don't think a lot of people realise that. How many people are like that? You know, you're reading different things all the time. People don't realise what they're saying and what they're doing. Anyway, let's watch this. It's on this channel here, Alan Watts Daily Reflections. I've subbed to his channel now, and thank you very much for putting these videos out, and I really don't think they'll mind me sharing this and promoting their channel. Anyway, please go over to his channel. He's got a lot more Alan Watts dailies on there, and let's listen to the video.
It seems something rather unsettling is unfolding for certain individuals right now. And what's curious is that for much of their lives, they've been told their very distinctiveness is actually a flaw. These people, perhaps you are one of them, carry a psychological signature so rare that most others simply cannot recognize it, much less understand it. Those who possess these traits often walk through life feeling fundamentally different, rather misaligned with the world around them. And this difference, they've been led to believe, is a defect. But imagine, for a moment, that this difference isn't a defect at all. What if these very qualities, which might make you feel broken, are actually signs of a remarkably advanced psychological architecture? What if your inability to simply fit in isn't a flaw, but rather an indication that you're operating on an entirely different frequency? Now, let's be clear about what we mean by rare. We're not speaking of being an introvert, or having a peculiar hobby, or perhaps favoring unusual music, or holding unconventional opinions. No, we're talking about a psychological configuration so profoundly different that you perceive reality in ways most people simply cannot conceive. You might see emotions, not as mere feelings, but as intricate symphonies of meaning. You find yourself compelled to ask, why? Long after everyone else has settled for what? You may even experience a kind of inner pain when forced to be inauthentic. And, perhaps most significantly, you carry within you a sense of purpose so potent it feels like a profound obligation to existence itself. Carl Jung, you see, termed this phenomenon differentiated consciousness. He observed that certain individuals develop a psychological sophistication which distinguishes them, not only socially, but existentially. These aren't people who merely learn to be different. Rather, these are people who simply cannot be anything else. And here lies the inherent difficulty. Society, as we know it, is largely constructed for the psychological majority. Every system, every institution, every social norm is designed for those content with surface-level answers, who find satisfaction in external validation, who can live without constantly questioning the fundamental nature of their existence. But for those with this rare psychological configuration, participation in these systems often feels like a kind of psychological strain. Small talk, for instance, is a struggle. Mind naturally delves into deeper currents. Conventional success holds little appeal because your very soul demands profound meaning over mere achievement. You simply cannot sustain relationships that require you to perform a simplified version of yourself. And each time you attempt to force yourself into these prescribed patterns, something subtle within you seems to diminish a little more. The first clear sign, then, is an emotional depth that others often perceive as overwhelming. But it isn't overwhelming, it's simply comprehensive. When you feel something, you don't merely touch the surface of that emotion. You feel its echoes, its history, its myriad implications, and its connections to every other emotion you've ever experienced. Jung referred to these as feeling-toned complexes, emotional experiences laden with layers of psychological meaning. Others might feel a simple sadness, while you feel the sadness of existence itself, the melancholy of impermanence, the grief of unfulfilled potential, all interwoven. Others may feel joy, but for you, that joy is often tinged with the awareness of its fleeting nature, the bitter sweet of the moment, even as you embrace it. This is not emotional instability. You understand. It is emotional sophistication. You aren't overreacting. You are, in a way, fully reacting. You are experiencing the complete spectrum of what it means to be conscious in a universe that most people only glimpse in scattered fragments. The second sign is a boundless curiosity that refuses to be satisfied with simple answers. While others may ask what, you are compelled to ask why. And not just why, but why behind the why. Every answer, for you, simply opens another door to deeper questions. You find yourself unable to accept the conventional "that's just how things are," because you sense an underlying untruth in it. Jung described this as the transcendent function, the psychological drive to unite conscious and unconscious material, to see beyond the commonly accepted veil of reality. Others, you might notice, find this exhausting. They often wish you would just accept things, stop questioning, and be content with the simpler explanations that allow them to rest easy. But you simply cannot, because once you have glimpsed the depths, you can no longer pretend that the shallows are all there is. The third sign is a fierce independence, born not of rebellion, but of psychological necessity. This isn't the independence of a typical rebel or a mere loner. No, this is the independence of someone who has come to realize, often through painful experience, that their psychological survival hinges on trusting their own perception of reality. You have learned that when you betray your inner knowing in an attempt to fit in, you don't just compromise, you begin to psychologically unravel. Jung called this process individuation, the profound psychological imperative to become authentically who you are, rather than merely who you've been conditioned to be. For most people, individuation is somewhat optional, a luxury of self-development. But for you, it is simply mandatory. It's not merely about growth, it's truly about survival. You have likely spent years attempting to conform, to quiet that insistent inner voice, to accept what others readily accept. And each such attempt likely felt like a slow dying. Not dramatically, perhaps, but quietly, subtly, one compromise after another, until you reached a point where you realized that being truly rejected for who you are is infinitely less painful than being accepted for who you are not. The fourth sign is a pattern recognition that borders, some might say, on the prophetic. You discern connections that others often overlook. You might notice the subtle shift in someone's energy even before they speak. You can feel the emotional undercurrent in a room the very moment you enter it. You recognize intricate patterns in behavior, in events, and in the very fabric of existence itself, patterns that most people don't even know exist. This isn't paranoia. You see, this is simply perception. Jung identified this as the intuitive function. the ability to perceive things through the unconscious, to simply know without fully knowing how you know. For you, this function isn't just developed. It's often hyperactive. You are constantly receiving information from channels that most people have, perhaps unconsciously, closed off. The challenge, of course, is that you often cannot logically explain how you know what you know. You just know. And when you attempt to share these insights, people often think you're imagining things, or worse, that you are judging them. They don't quite grasp that you aren't choosing to see these patterns. You simply cannot not see them. The fifth sign is an inherent inability to pursue anything without meaning. This, perhaps, can be the most isolating trait. While many others can tolerate jobs they dislike for the sake of income, you find it physically impossible to sustain meaningless effort, while others maintain superficial friendships for social convenience. You simply cannot pretend a connection where none exists. While others might chase goals for external validation, you can only move towards that which deeply aligns with your soul's inherent purpose. This isn't mere idealism. It's a deep psychological necessity. Your psyche, in a very real sense, rebels against inauthenticity. You might even develop physical symptoms, exhaustion, illness, or even depression, when compelled to participate in meaningless activities. Jung observed that when the psyche is forced to betray its nature, it often creates symptoms as a form of profound protest. People might perceive this as impractical, unrealistic, or perhaps too sensitive. They don't quite grasp that for you. Meaning is not a luxury. It is, quite simply, oxygen. Without it, you don't merely struggle, you begin to suffocate. The sixth sign is outgrowing people and environments at a rather alarming rate. Your psychological evolution isn't linear. You see, it's often exponential. You don't just learn, you transform. You don't just grow, you deeply metamorphose. And with each transformation, you become, in a way, incompatible with the previous version of your life. This creates a recurring, often painful, pattern. The people who loved who you were may not quite recognize who you have become. Environments that once nurtured you now feel like restricted. Beliefs that once guided you now seem like limiting chains. And you are constantly faced with the choice between your ongoing evolution and your attachments. Jung wrote about this as psychological death and rebirth, the absolute necessity of allowing parts of ourselves to die so that new consciousness can emerge. For most people, this kind of profound shift might happen once or twice in a lifetime. For you, it is an ongoing, ceaseless process. You are always, in a sense, dying to who you were, always being born into who you are becoming. The seventh sign is a presence that transforms others without any conscious effort. When you enter a room, the very energy seems to shift, not because you demand attention, but because your inherent depth creates a kind of psychological gravity. People often find themselves confiding in you, telling you things they've never told anyone else. They feel seen in your presence, in ways they can't quite explain. They either gravitate toward you intensely or, just as often, instinctively flee from you. This isn't mere charisma. This is what Jung called psychological containment, the profound ability to hold a spacious place for the full complexity of human experience. Your depth, you see, creates a kind of safe container where others can bravely explore their own inner complexities. Your authenticity offers others an implicit permission to drop their own masks. But this remarkable gift, it must be said, often comes with a significant cost. People tend to project onto you constantly. They might make you their impromptu therapist, their guru, their savior, or even their demon. They often want you to hold their pain, to solve their problems, to be their meaning. And because you can feel their needs so acutely, you often find yourself giving far more than you truly have to give. The eighth sign is a persistent feeling of having something profoundly crucial to contribute. This isn't ego, nor is it grandiosity. It is a quiet, yet insistent knowing that you carry something within you that the world genuinely needs. You might not know precisely what it is yet. You might not know exactly how to express it, but you can feel it there. A quiet pressure, like a pregnancy of consciousness patiently waiting to be born. Jung called this the self-seeking expression, the totalized potential of who you could become, gently pushing against the boundaries of who you currently are. For you, this isn't a vague sense of potential. It is an almost physical pressure, a psychological imperative that simply won't let you rest until you have given form to what truly lives within you. This, of course, creates its own particular kind of suffering, the suffering of unexpressed potential, the silent agony of knowing you have something vital to give, but not quite knowing how to give it. The deep frustration of seeing so clearly what the world truly needs, but feeling unable to make the world see it too. Now, consider what happens when all 8 of these profound signs converge within one individual. You become, as Jung put it, a living bridge between worlds. You exist, in a way, simultaneously in the world that is and the world that could be. You carry within you both the full weight of current reality and the vast potential of what reality might become. And this unique position is both a tremendous gift and, undeniably, a heavy burden. The gift lies in your ability to perceive possibilities that others cannot. You can imagine futures that others simply cannot conceive. You can hold paradoxes that others find utterly contradictory. You become, in essence, a living testament to the truth that there is always more to existence than what appears on the surface. The burden, however, is that you must carry this profound vision largely alone. You must hold this knowing in a world that often prefers not to know. You must embody this truth in a world that often finds comfort in illusion. You must be this bridge, even when no one seems quite ready to cross it. And here is what I want you to understand deeply about this burden. It is not a punishment. It is not a curse. It is simply evolution in action. You are not broken. You are, in a deeper sense, breaking through. You are not too much. You are, perhaps, showing others that they have been living as too little. You are not too sensitive. You are, in fact, appropriately responsive to the full, rich spectrum of existence. Every spiritual tradition, it seems, has spoken of individuals like you, the mystics who simply could not stop seeking the divine, the prophets who could not help but speak their truth, the visionaries who could not cease imagining entirely new worlds. They weren't special because they were chosen. You see, they were special because they truly could not choose to be anything else. You are part of this ancient lineage, not because you consciously decided to be, but because your unique psychological configuration makes it truly impossible for you to be anything else. You are not trying to be deep. You simply cannot access the shallows. You are not trying to be intense. You cannot dilute your own experience. You are not trying to be different. You cannot access what is commonly called normal. This, you see, is exactly as it should be. Because humanity does not evolve through conformity. It evolves through those rare individuals who simply cannot conform. It does not progress through a resigned acceptance of limitation. It progresses through those who, in their very being, cannot accept limitations. It does not expand through a comfortable satisfaction with the status quo. It expands through those who are psychologically incapable of being satisfied with what is. You are not a mistake within the system. You are, in a profound way, evolution's very answer to the system's inherent limitations. But here is what makes your path particularly challenging. You must learn to honor your rarity without allowing it to become a shield. You must learn to trust your own unique perception without completely dismissing the perceptions of others. You must learn to follow your own distinct path without condemning those who cannot yet see it. You must learn to be fully yourself without demanding that others understand or validate what yourself truly means. This, you see, requires what Jung termed holding the tension of opposites. You must be simultaneously confident in your innate gifts and profoundly humble about their larger purpose. You must be both separate from the collective and deeply in service to it. You must honor both your shared humanity and your exceptionality. Most importantly, you must stop waiting for external permission to truly be who you are. The world, you see, will likely never permit you to be this rare. Society will never fully validate your fundamental refusal to conform. The majority will never truly understand your profound need for depth, for meaning, and for authenticity. And if you wait for that external permission, that validation, that understanding, you will, in a sense, wait forever. Your true permission must come from within, from that deep, quiet place that has always known you were different, from that core self that has never truly been able to pretend otherwise, from that essential nature that would rather, perhaps, die than be diminished. Let me tell you what truly happens when you finally, deeply accept your own rarity. First, you simply stop apologizing. You stop prefacing your insights with phrases like, "This might sound a little weird, but..." You stop dimming your inherent intensity to make others feel more comfortable. You stop pretending that superficial conversations genuinely satisfy you. You stop forcing yourself into conventional boxes that were simply never designed for your unique shape. Then, quite naturally, you begin to attract your true people. Not many of them. Perhaps, remember, you are rare, but the right ones. People who can meet you in the depths. People who hunger for the very same meaning you hunger for. People who have, perhaps, been waiting their whole lives to find someone who sees what they see. Then your purpose begins to clarify. Not because someone explicitly tells you what it is, but because you simply stop fighting against what it has always inherently been. You stop trying to force your unique gifts into conventional forms. You stop trying to make your vision fit within existing structures. Instead, you begin creating entirely new forms, new structures, new ways of being that authentically match the truth of who you are. You become what you were always, inevitably, meant to be, a beacon for others who carry this same rare configuration. Not to lead them, for they, like you, simply cannot follow, but rather to show them that it is profoundly possible to survive being this different, that it is profoundly possible to thrive being this deep, that it is profoundly possible to live with this level of intensity and not, ultimately, be destroyed by it. This is not a comfortable path. You see, it is not a safe path. It is certainly not a popular path. But it is, without a doubt, your path, and every fiber of your being knows it to be so. You have likely spent years trying to find another way, a way that would allow you to keep your depth while still comfortably fitting in, a way that would honor your truth without making others feel uncomfortable, a way that would express your gifts without exposing your profound difference. But every compromise, in retrospect, felt like a deep betrayal. Every attempt to dilute yourself felt like a slow dying, because your soul, you see, knows what your mind perhaps still struggles to accept. Authenticity is simply not negotiable for you. It never truly was. So, let me leave you with this thought. Your emotional depth is not too much. It is, in fact, a kind of medicine for a world that has, in many ways, forgotten how to feel. In a culture that often medicates feeling and celebrates numbness, your profound ability to feel fully is not a weakness. It is, very truly, the cure. Every tear you shed, in its own way, gives others unspoken permission to grieve. Every joy you express reminds others that ecstasy is, indeed, possible. Your vast emotional range is, in a way, teaching an emotionally constrained world how to truly breathe again. Your insistent questions are not problems. They are, rather, doorways to dimensions that desperately need exploring. While others simply accept the maps they've been given, you cannot help but notice that the territory simply does not match. Your refusal to accept simple answers is not stubbornness. It is, perhaps, evolution itself insisting upon truth. Every why you ask creates a quiet crack in the wall of collective assumption. And through those cracks, new light, inevitably, enters. Your independence is not isolation. It is the very sovereignty required to birth new possibilities. You simply cannot create from within the confines of conformity. You cannot innovate while constantly seeking approval. You cannot truly pioneer while following someone else's well-trodden path. Your aloneness, then, is not loneliness. It is the sacred space where original thought is born. It is the nurturing womb of transformation that cannot be rushed or invaded. Your perception is not paranoia. It is, quite simply, sight in a world that has, in many ways, chosen blindness. When you perceive the patterns others miss, when you feel the subtle undercurrents others ignore, when you know things without being able to explain how, this is not madness. This is, truly, clarity. You are not imagining things. Others are simply failing to see what has always been present. Your perception is not the problem. The collective agreement to ignore reality is the problem. Your profound need for meaning is not impractical. It is, in essence, the compass pointing toward humanity's next great evolution. In a world that often seems to be drowning in meaningless consumption, meaningless relationships, and meaningless pursuits, your deep hunger for purpose is not naive idealism. It is the evolutionary imperative itself, speaking powerfully through you. You simply cannot settle for less because your psyche knows, at a very deep level, that humanity cannot survive on emptiness forever. Your refusal to accept meaninglessness is not a personal preference. It is, in a profound sense, species wisdom. Your constant growth is not instability. It is, rather, life force refusing to be contained, while others often plateau and perhaps call it maturity. And in this liminal space, between what was and what will be, certain individuals are being called upon to hold the bridge, not necessarily to know what comes next, but to be so impossibly, unapologetically themselves that they become a living permission for entirely new ways of being. You are one of these individuals, not because you consciously chose it, but because your psychological configuration simply makes it impossible for you to be anything else. You are not a mistake within the system. You are, rather, the system's own upgrade. You are the very mutation that ensures humanity's psychologically be. And the world needs you to simply stop apologizing for that. It needs you to start embodying it fully. Stop dimming your inherent light just because it makes others squint. Stop simplifying your profound truth because others find complexity overwhelming. Stop betraying your inner knowing just because others are comfortable in their not knowing. Stop making yourself smaller simply because others have chosen to remain small. Because there are others out there, right now, feeling exactly what you have felt, believing they are broken, convinced they are too much. I wonder why they cannot simply be normal. Sitting alone in their rooms, perhaps even searching online for, why do I feel so different? Searching for something, anything, that might explain this persistent, nagging sense of alienation. And they need to see that someone like them not only survived, but truly thrived. They need to know that their rarity is not a curse, but a profound calling. They need evidence that it is truly possible to be this different and not be destroyed by it. They need to witness someone living fully in their truth, not as an inspiration to copy, but as a deep, resonant permission to finally stop hiding themselves. You are that proof. You are that possibility. You are the profound permission they are patiently waiting for. No permission to follow you, for they, like you, cannot truly follow. But permission to finally, fully, unapologetically be themselves. Your visibility, you see, is their validation. Your authenticity is their authorization. Your thriving is their very hope. This is not about ego. You understand. This is about ecology. The intricate ecosystem of human consciousness needs diversity to truly survive. It needs the deep feelers to remember what has, perhaps, been forgotten. It needs the relentless questioners to challenge what has been too readily accepted. It needs the independent spirits to imagine what has not yet been tried. It needs the keen perceivers to see what has been hidden. It needs the meaning seekers to insist upon profound purpose. It needs the ever to catalyze essential change. It needs the purpose-driven to gently pull humanity forward. It needs you, exactly as you are, exactly as you have always been. Not fixed, not normalized, not made palatable, but raw, real, rare, and quietly revolutionary in your simple insistence on simply being yourself. So, stop waiting for the world to somehow be ready for you. The world, in its current state, will likely never be fully ready for what you truly represent. The end of unconscious living, the quiet death of comfortable illusions, the sheer impossibility of returning to slumber once awakening has truly begun. Instead, just be so courageously yourself that you compel the world to grapple with the undeniable reality of your existence. Be so authentic that you become undeniable. Be so genuine that you make pretense simply impossible in your very presence. Be so real that you gently remind everyone what reality actually feels like. Just as you, too, must finally, fully, unapologetically be yourself. The rare, the deep, the truly real you that you have always been. The you that the world has, perhaps unknowingly, been waiting for. The you that sometimes frightens you with its sheer intensity. The you that you have, perhaps, been taught to hide, but can no longer contain. The you that is, right now. Reading these very words and feeling that ancient recognition, yes, it whispers, this is who I am. This is who I have always been. And this is who I must finally allow myself to become.